Who's that coming down the track? Who's that coming down the track? It's a mean machine in red and black. Mean machine in red and black. Ain't nothing finer in the land. Ain't nothing finer in the land. Them drunk obnoxious Georgia fans. Them drunk obnoxious Georgia fans. Go, go!
What's up, y'all? This is John, Mike, and Kaleb back for another episode of the Nothing Finer podcast. Tonight we are joined by Rec Talk. Yes, after years of trying to get somebody on to talk about the North Avenue Trade School, we finally found somebody willing to put up with us for about 30 minutes or so. But
that's rare.
Yeah,
that's very rare.
But how you doing, man?
I'm doing good, man. I appreciate y'all having me on. Look, I look forward to this every year. It hadn't gone our way in the past, but I'm still saying to hell with Georgia. I will say it till the day I die. But I'm glad to be on here with you guys.
Awesome. So we're gonna jump right into it. We do want to start off with a little bit of a disclaimer if you guys are newer to listening to the show. But we've been high on Tech all year, including the off season. We called the Georgia Tech over Florida State game when we had someone from the national media on telling us we were crazy and Florida State's a top 4 team in the country.
Are they still in the ACC?
Florida State?
Yeah.
Honestly, I think the FCS has kicked them out at this point.
Well, because I was told they were going to be out last June, so that's surprising to me.
Yeah.
But, we've been also saying it for years. We want Tech to be better, so this feels more like a rivalry instead of just another Group of 5 or FCS school, which, not even trying to talk a lot of shit. That at times Georgia Tech has felt like that over the last 10 years or so. But we're happy that Tech is finally to that point. Now the rest of the trash talk can continue, and we don't feel bad about it.
Yeah, look, I think Georgia Tech has won 3 of the last 15, I think. So, yeah, I get that it's not really been a rivalry. It's 100% on Georgia Tech right now. Part of that is they hired a brain-dead, smooth-brain moron by the name of Jeff Collins, who got a Hall of Fame coach fired today inside of a year. So that didn't bode well for us. But even before then, look, things are trending in the right direction. Georgia Tech signs our first 5-star this cycle, which was great because that happened right before we played Florida State, and we took him from him. And I'm sure y'all go back and forth with Tennessee fans. Tennessee fans told me it was a red flag that we paid Josh Petty a 5-star, what we did. Meanwhile, these guys are paying Nico $8 million to look like me out there.
And that's not counting what's in the McDonald's bags.
Right.
No, they were paying players for it was cool.
Yeah, Nico averaging 175 passing yards per SEC game is not a good look for that money.
No.
I would love to do the research and find a dollars per passing yard in the SEC stat.
Yeah, ROI for NIL would be awesome.
In fairness, that's
here. We could make that happen for you.
In fairness, that is just the Josh Heupel offense once it hits the SEC.
As long as Hendon Hooker's not the quarterback, yes.
Right.
Oh boy.
So normally we start with every other position on the offense and then hit quarterback, but Georgia Tech's offense really starts and stops with Haynes King. So going into this game, how healthy is he?
Not very. He's probably at 45%. And I say that because, you probably haven't watched a lot of Tech this year. He is a really good player. He can't throw really beyond the line of scrimmage. He has some injury that prevents him from throwing. So when Haynes King comes in, if Georgia Tech tries to run this 2-quarterback system with Aaron Philo, Haynes King comes in, 80% of the playbook is unavailable to him. And now, it worked against Miami. For some reason, I think that really exposed the fantastic defense they're showing up, and they can't even hang their hat on some fluke knee thing happening. Georgia Tech just ran it right up their asshole for 4 quarters for 275 yards or so. Now, it didn't work against NC State because if Haynes King comes in, you can just attack the line of scrimmage because you know nothing's going to come over the top. So I don't know how much Haynes King will actually play. I think he will play situationally, like in a goal line situation, he might run read option. And it kind of sucks because teams have been successful running the ball against Georgia, especially with like some read option stuff. Even the success Tennessee was able to have was off that Sampson running back. They were able to run on Georgia a little bit.
So,
and we don't have to talk about UMass getting 200 rushing yards either.
226, but I wasn't paying attention.
So I haven't done any research on Philo. Tell us about his play style.
So I've said this in a lot of my videos. He doesn't have anything that would be eye-popping. In fact, I might compare him to like Tom Glavine. Tom Glavine didn't have a 95-mile-an-hour fastball. He didn't have great movement, but he won. He won 300 games on less than impressive stuff necessarily. And Aaron Philo's kind of like that. He just makes plays when you need plays made. He also broke Trevor Lawrence's all-time passing yardage record in the state of Georgia. I even think Kirby Smart mentioned this yesterday in his press conference. And he did it in 3 years where it took Lawrence 4 years. So he came from Prince Avenue. I don't know if you guys are in Athens. I mean, that's right down the road. Mm-hmm. He didn't start his freshman year because Brock Vandegrift was starting. Did he just get benched at Kentucky?
He sure
I
did.
never understood the 5-star billing with him anyways. But look, Aaron Philo is, if you didn't know and you're a Georgia fan, you might look, oh, they're starting a freshman quarterback, easy. I don't think that to be the case. I mean, I think you're going to have to be aggressive and get after him and not let him get comfortable. If you do let him get comfortable, Tech does have some weapons that can hurt you. Eric Singleton Jr. was a freshman All-American last year. He's a 10, 200-meter guy, track star. Isaiah Canyon's a big 6'4", big body guy. Malik Rutherford's been successful for us. So, you're not going to be able to let him get comfortable, I don't think.
So in the rushing game, Tech is averaging 180.1 yards per game and has almost 2,000 yards in the season. What do you think they're able to do against Georgia's front seven, who's also allowing 124.5 yards per game?
So that I think Josh Pate I think he calls it a keystone stat, like a stat that if you knew before the game would tell you who's going to win the game. I don't necessarily know if Georgia Tech's rushing yards in this game would tell you if they're going to win, but I will say like every time they've won a game like this, they've ran for like more than 150. So that's probably going to be a requirement. Now, it might be a surprise to y'all. Georgia Tech's probably as banged up as Georgia is at running back. Jamal Haynes, who was a 1,000-yard rusher, all-ACC guy last year, has been banged up. Trey Cooley was knocked out in the Florida State game and just came back against Miami. Chad Alexander has been banged up. So we've been on like 4th and 5th string running backs. The good news is Tech does have a pretty good offensive line. And as far as Georgia's concerned, I do think it's going to come down to your front four. I don't think you run much 3-man front, though Tech has struggled with 3-man fronts. That's what NC State did. I do think Tech is going to be able to run the ball some on Georgia, though. I mean, you're Georgia fans. If there's a deficiency in your defense, it's probably your rush defense, right?
Have you seen us attempt to stop quarterbacks from completing passes?
So it depends on the day, really.
Depends on the day. I'm just looking at statistically. I think I had the stats written over here at some point, but it's going to be a requirement for Georgia Tech. The thing that makes this weird is that probably Haynes King is somewhat unavailable, and you might get a different style of Georgia Tech offense like you saw in the 4th quarter of the NC State game. You know, Buster Faulkner, I'm sure y'all know of this guy. He's an analyst, the Stetson Bennett whisperer for you guys.
Future Georgia OC, right?
Yeah, well, I mean, I'll tell you what, I've never understood y'all's hatred for Bobo. I mean, I don't think y'all have a Bobo problem, but
we loved Mike Bobo until a few
Carson Beck started throwing interceptions.
Yeah.
Sure.
The play calling when Carson was struggling was inside run, 3rd and 12 screen.
Hey, he's back though. He and Carson have both figured it out. I'm back on the hooray for Bobo train.
Well, and then last year we were probably the biggest Bobo champions of any Georgia media outlet you can think of.
Yeah, I mean he's done nothing but average like 39 points a game his whole
Even during his first
career.
stint.
I mean, last
Georgia.
season, Georgia's offense was statistically better than any of Todd Monken's years. We were huge Bobo fans until the offense stalled out for what seemed like a month this year.
Well, it happens, and a lot of people will say like, well, every sack. They'll look at every sack as the quarterback's fault, but that's not true. If you've got 5 routes and your running back's going out for a route and you only have 5 blockers and they rush 7, it's on your quarterback to get the ball out or get out of the pocket and throw it away. And for whatever reason, it just seemed like either Beck hadn't seen that kind of pressure before, or he just didn't handle it very well.
Yeah.
Yeah. And for a period in the season, he was also making very, very questionable decisions.
Yeah.
Sure.
That's not on Bobo, though, but yeah.
No.
But no, you're not getting Faulkner. Screw you for even saying that. We actually just made him the highest paid coordinator in Tech history. Now that don't mean, I mean, you're going to have a bag of money you can throw at him if you want. I will say that he's a hot commodity right now, and there's some teams coming after him for head coach. So it'll be interesting to see where he ends up.
Maybe UNC, maybe. Yeah.
Man, another Jeff Collins thing, but yeah, I mean, UNC, I mean, what a, just as a side note, debacle. Like the man was willing to step down after JMU embarrassed you, dog walked you up and down the field, and then you wait until Boston College to fire him. It's just a bizarre. Another team like Miami that can't beat Georgia Tech.
We were talking about the whole JMU thing before you got on here, and looking at UNC and JMU schedules outside of that game is one of the, like, there needs to be a case study on that game in particular and what each team has done since then, because it is like UNC beat Minnesota, then got 70 hung on them by James Madison, and then that Minnesota team only lost by 1 to the number 4 team in the country. All that's in
Penn State. Yeah, and JMU's 8-3 right now. So they've solved their offensive problem. Because the thing is, before that they played North Carolina, they only put up like 14 on Garner Webb. But you run into a Collins coach defense, and you have a career day.
And then James Madison came into Statesboro and lost that game. It's like,
to Southern.
Yeah.
Yeah. Crazy.
Yeah. Speaking of having a career day against questionable defenses, I think it's safe to say, you know, with the quarterback situation, the passing game has been a struggle. In perspective with the rest of the country, not necessarily the team's history, at least. They are 56th in the nation currently, but do you think they can take advantage of Georgia's secondary? Do you think Philo, I know he slung it around a little bit against NC State. Do you think he can take advantage of this Georgia secondary that has struggled?
I definitely think he can. Now, obviously, Kirby's he's probably the best defensive mind in the country, right? Like I'd be comfortable with saying that. I think it's going to come down to how you attack Philo, and I'm sure Georgia will be very aggressive in disguising coverages and blitz packages. And I imagine we will sacrifice protection for number of routes. So we'll have less routes run, and we'll bring a running back in to protect. Like I said before, I think if he has time to throw, he's going to be able to, but it's going to be predicated on, can Georgia Tech get a run game going? In other words, are you even respecting us running the ball? If not, and you can just sit back in coverage, then you can probably just tee off and probably even come up with some picks. But look, I'm confident. I'm confident in Aaron Philo. And I really wasn't aware that you were as suspect in secondary as much. I think, again,
Oh boy.
Say the word Dalen Everett around this podcast.
The people in my section in Sanford Stadium know if I say guess who on a completed pass, it was Dalen Everett. I respect the guy, but good Lord, I stand by my statement that he is one of the worst starting corners to play at the University of Georgia in the last 20 years.
So what's the deal? Is it just you're blown coverage? You're not in position. You're in position, but don't make a play on the ball.
Yes.
With Dalen, more often than not, he decides that like, oh, coach said give like 5 yards of separation. That includes when he's catching the football. Like
Okay.
he's never in the right spot.
Unless he's playing Texas, he had just played out of his mind that game.
Yeah, I don't know what he was on that game,
Yeah.
but he showed up.
He took all the Adderall to concentrate.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Yeah, I think it's to Tech's advantage that we're probably going to start Philo, and not because necessarily he's the most talented guy. It's just if you look at film on Tech, we really haven't thrown the ball downfield that much. We've wanted to run a quick screen game and get the ball out of the quarterback hands quick. So if you look at like Haynes King's completion percentage, it's really high, but it's a little bit deceptive because most of those balls are 5 yards or less. Philo likes to throw the ball downfield, though, and he's definitely going to take shots. And it could come down to can you win these 50-50 balls and make a play when you need to.
So even with having a running quarterback for most of the season between Haynes King and I always mess the other guys up. Pryon.
Zach Pyron, yeah.
Pyron. Tech is second in the country in sacks allowed with only 5 on the season. How do you think the offensive line stacks up with Georgia averaging 2.64 sacks per game?
Well, I mean, obviously there's a different strength of schedule there, and like I can acknowledge that. And I think Georgia's strength of schedule is 9th. I think Tech's is like 34th, 32nd, something like that. So it's definitely, I mean, you've played better teams than Tech, but this is probably the most talented offensive line we've ever had. Look, Brent Key's an offensive line guy. In fact, I believe Brent Key and Kirby Smart played against each other back in the day.
Yep.
So it's interesting. But he's built this team kind of similar to how Kirby did. You know, when Kirby came into Athens, he was like, we need to get bigger on the lines of scrimmage. And I think that was probably the difference in y'all having success there moving forward. But yeah, this is a good Tech offensive line. They've been hit and miss though. You know, last year we were pretty much able to run at will. Even on Georgia last year, we were able to run very well against Georgia and put ourselves in a position to win that game. Late, it didn't go our way. But we struggled to run against Syracuse, which is a little bit curious to me. Again, for whatever reason, we've struggled against 3-man fronts, which if you're not aware, that's kind of like the triple option of a defensive front, and we've struggled with it. So it'll be interesting. It wouldn't surprise me if y'all run some packages with 3 down linemen.
Mm-hmm. All right, so moving over to the defensive side of the ball, Tech has a top 40 rushing defense. Do you think they're going to be able to stop Georgia's running game?
Again, this is a schematic question, so it depends on how you attack Tech. I think if you just come out as Georgia and Bobo says we're going to establish the run first and we're going to try and just get out of here and control time of possession, I do think Georgia Tech can stop Georgia's running attack, especially when you're banged up. And this stat is crazy to me. You are 98th in rushing offense nationally this year. You would probably have to go back 20 years or more to see a Georgia team that's that struggling that much to run the ball. We do, and this is shout out to Tyler Santucci. That might go down as one of the best coordinator hires of the last cycle. Came in from Duke. Georgia Tech had the 129th ranked rush defense last year. We fire not 1, but 2 defensive coordinators. We demote Thacker, who's now an analyst for you, promote Scherer and fire him. And inside of a year, Tyler Santucci has got this team rolling. We're playing much better, especially in the second half of the season, getting after the quarterback. But like Kyle Eford is a run-stopping threat that I think would play for anybody or at least get reps. The problem with him is that he's super suspect in the passing game and coverage. And Georgia has the 9th ranked passing attack in the country. So I think Georgia's game plan will most likely be we're going to work outside in and try and throw to open up the run against Tech. I think if you do that, then you can probably run some on Tech.
Kaleb.
Cool. So I'm trying to get a stream up so I can catch these rankings, and I
The rankings have started.
Not quite, but they're getting there. There's a
Okay.
basketball game in the way. So anyway, thinking back to the game against Miami.
yeah.
Tech was. I'm sure you'd love to do that. Tech was freaking havoc in the backfield with 3 sacks, 1 tackle for loss, a huge turnover. That hasn't been the case consistently this season, with Tech averaging just 4 tackles for loss. Excuse me.
Can you hand me the remote real quick?
So anyway, that hadn't been the case. They've averaged 1.36 sacks per game. So what kind of performance are you expecting from the Yellow Jackets on Friday defensively?
I think we're going to struggle. I mean, you got to look at the context of why we were able to get at Cam Ward. Cam Ward's not a quarterback that wants to take off and run. He wants to play hero ball, dance around in the pocket, and then find a wide open man somewhere downfield. And because he did that, we were able to get pressure with a 3-man front, which is crazy. That's what happened on that strip sack that ended the game. So if Cam Ward would have just taken off and taken running lanes like CJ Bailey did for NC State, Miami probably wins that game pretty easily. He didn't do it, though. Georgia Tech has struggled to get after the quarterback probably most of the year. They're better down the second half. Romello Height's been a good player. He was a transfer for us, but it wouldn't surprise me if we have 1 or less sacks in this game. I think Georgia, their offensive line has struggled protecting back against teams like Texas and Ole Miss, but we don't have the defensive front that those teams do. So I'm not super confident we're going to be able to get after Beck. I think we're going to have to be very creative in how we attack them and disguising coverages.
So you've already talked about him. One of my favorite players in all of college football this year is Kyle Efford. I know I'm probably pronouncing his last name wrong, but it's because it sounds like you're saying F word, and I love that.
Or effort. I think it's Eford. I've been lambasted for I mispronounce everyone's name, even our coaches. I've called Santucci Stan Tucci. Our basketball coach, I call him Dante Stoudemire. His name's Damon Stoudemire. So I have no idea what these guys' names are.
With the SEC being on CBS and Gary Danielson being completely incapable of pronouncing anyone's name correctly,
we're used to that.
That is one of our pet peeves. But even if it is Eford, I'm saying Efford just personally. But the neck pad, the last name, just an elite linebacker persona. How much does he mean to this team's defense?
A ton, I mean, he plays that Mike linebacker. The Mike linebacker has the green dot. He's the quarterback of the defense. He's communicating with your DC. He's just a guy, again, that it's not like he has elite speed or, elite size or anything. He's just a playmaker. He just knows where the ball is. And, playing linebacker, it really goes into your relationship with the defensive line and both of you being unselfish. So, like, if you're playing defensive end, you're not going to get a sack every play, right? You might just have to play in a way that they need to commit a blocker to me and open up Eford to get to the quarterback. They've been very good with that. And I think, is he the first one that really brought back the neck roll? I don't remember seeing a neck roll outside of NCAA 14 when I'm creating a player in like 20 years. But he's had a shoulder injury. He was out, I want to say, against Virginia Tech. And when he got one of the sacks against Cam Ward, he came up gimpy. So he's not going to be 100% either. But what Santucci's been really good at is this is what any coordinator's good at, right? Putting your players in the best position to be successful. So he'll usually come in with Tatum, and then we'll have like a speed linebacker package that comes in. And, we've been really good at, I think, personnel, getting them out to match the offense.
One of the biggest areas of concern for the Yellow Jackets seems to be the passing defense, allowing 219.3 yards per game. How do you think they'll do against the Georgia team that's averaging almost 300 per game?
Yeah, I've got no reason to think that we're going to hold you under 300 in the passing defense. LaMiles Brooks, who plays safety with us, was good in Key's interim year. He got one of the picks against Drake May that really was a big part in winning that game against North Carolina. Since then, hasn't really done much and has even struggled tackling. Now it was either the worst execution ever against NC State or the most high IQ play ever. Because if he makes a tackle when they score that go-ahead run, they can probably run the clock out and kick a field goal. But him allowing him to score gave us time to try and answer. But yeah, we've struggled. The big thing with us is being in position to make a play and just not making it. And you've probably felt this way too from what you've said about your secondary. It's like, man, why does everyone make circus catches against us? Like, they just always come up with the ball. And Georgia's got a lot of weapons. I think it's going to be a tall order for Tech. Like, Delk's been very good for you across the middle. And it seems like Carson Beck likes to throw up the seam. And that's probably the biggest deficiency for us, is people just coming up the seam when we're blitzing, and then you have a wide open guy right across the middle.
So we talked a little bit about the offense earlier, specifically focusing on the quarterbacks for the most part. But who was one, I'll say non-quarterback, because we talked about King and Philo. But who's one non-quarterback player on the offense that Georgia fans really need to know going into Friday?
I don't know how healthy he is. Malik Rutherford. He plays slot, small guy. In fact, the guy that we just flipped from Louisville is a very similar player out of Buford. He's got to lead us in receiving, if I would think. We like to throw him a quick screen and let him use his speed to try and, find a running lane and get upfield. He's been very good for us. I'm trying to think. I mean, Eric Singleton Jr. Doesn't have the stats for you to pay attention to, but he draws double teams, right? So he's not getting a lot of throws, but because you're drawing a double team, that's opening up single man coverage somewhere else, and a lot of times for Malik. So I'd say those two guys would be ones to watch out for. In the running game, if Jamal Haynes is healthy, he's a nifty back. I mean, if you saw that cut 75-yard touchdown run he had against Miami and North Carolina, I mean, he can hurt you if you're not disciplined, being where you need to be and being in position defensively.
So who is one non-Kyle Efford player on defense that Georgia fans need to know about?
I can give you another linebacker.
Okay.
I'll give you two. I'll give you a defensive lineman and a linebacker. Tajay Butler. He's a true freshman, big kid. He's like 6'2", 230 or something. A kid that was out of position a lot earlier in the year just because he's young, but has really come into his own. And he's I think he has the potential to be Kyle Effort in the run stopping game, but has coverage ability too. He's got a lot of speed. On the defensive front, Zeke Biggers, big Zeke Biggers. He's a senior. He's 6'7", like 340. He plays nose guard. And he's another guy, even if he doesn't get to the quarterback, he's probably going to draw a double team with center and guard, and that can open up, something for someone else to make a play on the ball. So I'd definitely look out for Biggers and Butler. And hell, even E.J. Lightsley, who transferred from y'all, he was hurt earlier in the year. I mean, we rotate in 4 or 5 linebackers pretty regularly.
Yeah, Carson gets a lot of balls batted down at the line, so that's concerning having a 6'7" guy there.
Yeah.
I saw him at Fan Day, and like, I'm not a small guy. Like, I'm 6'2", and he made me look like a child. It was like, wow.
Yeah. What are you most concerned about going into this game?
I'm most concerned about your passing game, and if you can get ahead early. I think I said this in my preview that I put out. If you can get ahead early and hit some explosive plays and get up like 14 or 17, I think with your defense, it's going to be hard for Georgia Tech to get back in the game, and they're always going to be playing behind. So my biggest concern is the passing game for Georgia. And as a Tech fan, I'm praying we get like Alabama or Ole Miss Carson Beck and not Tennessee Carson Beck.
First half Alabama Carson Beck.
Yeah, I mean, he lit it up in the second half, but for sure, I would love, because we got to be near the last in the country in interceptions. We just haven't had a lot, and I think for Georgia Tech to win this game, that 2 things have to happen. They've got to be able to run the ball, and they got to get some turnovers, just because you're out talented everywhere.
So this next question, I guess you could answer it a couple of ways. What are you most confident in, or in the spirit of Thanksgiving, what are you most thankful for on this team?
I'm most thankful for Jay Batt. So that's our AD. And look, Tech has historically been a team that has not taken football all that serious, as is
No.
evidenced by hiring a triple option head coach. Now, he was able to go and beat Georgia on some weird years. He won an ACC title. Yeah, but recruiting was a nuisance for this guy that he just felt like he had to put up with. Like a Paul Johnson recruiting pitch would be like, you want to come here or you don't, go screw yourself. That was kind of how he looked at recruiting. But Jay Batt's come in, and I don't know if you guys saw this, raised $300 million overnight of a $500 million initiative. So now we're going to renovate Bobby Dodd, which is the oldest on-campus stadium in the country. It feels like it at times too. In fact,
when are those renovations supposed to happen?
2025 through either the end of 26 or the beginning of 27. In fact, I think
this summer or after next season.
I think it starts this summer, but I'd have to go back and look. It's a reason why I think we were, other than money, we were willing to move this game to the Benz next year, because that gives you an extra week to start on your renovations going throughout that summer. So he's made great. I mean, Key's is probably going to go down as a good hire. I mean, he did in 2 years what it took Lane Kiffin, 20 to get a marquee win. And here's the other interesting thing for this game. I don't know what Key's record is being 3 touchdown underdogs on the road, but it's well above 500. That I do know. In fact, his first 2 games as interim, he was 3 touchdown underdogs on the road and won both of them. So, I mean, he coached under Saban, he coached under O'Leary, and he really, you hear him say the same things as Nick Saban does, and it's easily taken the wrong way of like, hey, we're out of the results business. We're just looking at what's my job, you know? And I do think that's how you end up getting where you want to be. So I'm thankful for Jay Batt. And what am I most confident in this game?
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it'd be hard to say I'm ultra confident in anything. If anything, I'd say I'm most confident in Brent Key. You know, Brent Key is going to do whatever it takes, I think, to win this game, or whatever he thinks he does. I think the guys are going to be very, very well prepared. Kirby Smart even said in his press conference yesterday, like, this is going to be a physical game. It was physical last year. Like, and I forgot who else said it. It might have been one of your radio personalities. Was like, man, this team just doesn't scare easily. You know, even going back to Key's interim year, I don't think y'all had given up an opening drive touchdown for 2 years. And with a 3rd and 4th string quarterback, he marched right down the field. I was at that game, sitting right off to your left, I think. And all the Georgia fans were looking around like, what is this? Like, I mean, people were stunned. So I think, one, he's an excellent developer of talent, and also he's great at identifying talent. Like Eric Singleton Jr. was a 2-star, ended up being a freshman All-American.
I will say too, if you're going to feel pretty good about a game in this series, you're probably better off playing it in Athens, considering the record at home.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, there's a reason we call it historic Mark Richt Field over there.
I don't think Mark Richt ever lost at Bobby Dodd. Even when he went to Miami, I'm pretty sure he didn't lose at Bobby Dodd. And look, yeah, we haven't beat y'all in Atlanta since George Godsey was the quarterback. I don't even know if some of you guys remember that guy. It was 1999. I think Quincy Carter might have been the quarterback for you. But yeah, when we win this game, for whatever reason, I can't explain it. It's in Athens. So I don't know. I guess I'm happy it's in Athens.
I have a theory about the 2016 game, having been there, and it was that they brought Georgia Tech's band out during halftime. And my wife, I always talk about my wife because she's not like a football fan, but she's just got a wisdom about her. And so the crowd started booing the Georgia Tech band and pretty much kept the booing on the whole performance. And she was like, Georgia Tech's going to win this game. I think we were up a couple of scores, but she was like, Georgia Tech's going to win this game. They're going to rally around the band and that disrespect. And I was like, yeah, okay.
The
whatever.
Football gods noticed.
Yeah, they did.
Yeah,
Are
I mean,
you going to the game on Friday?
No, I am not. So you can breathe a sigh of relief there.
Yes.
I won't either, and I haven't missed it. I was there in 2016. I was there in, what was it, 2014 or 2015. it is weird that it's on a Friday night. I know why this was done this way. I mean, Kirby wants to have a night game at home in Athens, and for Tech, we want the exposure, right?
Yeah.
Win-win.
But I don't know, man. Yeah, that's like a Fran Brown kind of thing. Like, man, you don't come out kicking footballs and shit when we playing tubas. Well, we took offense to that. Did you see like the weird things that he gets upset about?
Yeah.
I'm
here for it.
Yeah.
To me, his press conferences are like Jameis Winston pregame interviews. Like I want to see every one of them because something wild's going to be said, and I'm here for it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
Miami is ranked above Georgia, by the way. They just unveiled that.
Yeah, Miami's 6.
I mean, you guys should be proud. Miami is Georgia Tech's son, and your son is ranked number 6.
Yeah, we're proud of him. We're proud of him. Yeah, I mean, you're right. Like Fran Brown, he got mad at himself, and he said soap was for winners, and he refused to use it.
Yeah,
I'm like, okay, cool.
Yeah.
Whatever works. This team is 8-3 and has a chance to do the funniest thing ever to Miami this weekend. So
I think they're undefeated when he gets mad over dumb things too. So I guess there's some
analytics. I love it.
It works. That's the old 7-5. They're going 7-5 trick we used to use over here in Georgia.
Yeah.
No, yeah.
That Nolan Smith made up one time and just said it everywhere to every media person that would listen.
All right, so I do got one last question before we get to the pick segment here. So in my experience, Tech fans are quick to put down Georgia's academics. Is that something most Tech fans default to, or is that just the assholes that I'm around?
That feels like a leading question, but I mean, I'll answer it. Yeah, look, when you've been dominated by your rival, you got to reframe. This is what politicians do, right? You got to reframe. Yep. Don't answer the question you were asked, right? You answer the question you wish they would have asked. Right. So yeah, hell, I go for. Well, I mean, what else am I going to do, right? Like you're next to dead last in graduation rate of 160 teams, so we'll go with that. And then, I mean, there's APD, whatever, you go with all that. So it's not just the asshole fans that you've talked to. It's me as well. So
if you've ever been out on just a random Tuesday night in Athens, you would understand why people don't go to class,
I lived in Athens for a few years.
Okay.
Yeah.
So
we ain't here to play school, y'all. We ain't here to play school.
No,
look, you have 100 bars in like a square mile radius. You got Buddha bar and like 80s bar and like all these. Anything you want to dress up as, there's a bar for you to go and get messed up while you're doing it.
Athens is the city in the United States with the most bars per square foot because the way they do it, there'll be one in the basement, one on the first floor, and one on the second floor. And they're leading the country in one thing.
Yeah.
And it's underage
bars per
alcoholism.
capita.
Yeah. Oh no, yeah. Y'all are killing that for sure.
Mm-hmm.
For sure.
Hey, 2 things. I think reckless driving incidents as well.
Yeah.
That's fair.
If you ain't first, you're last, buddy.
Yeah, that loop 10 has been worse on you than your opponents, huh?
That may be the most true thing that's ever been said in the history of this podcast.
Surprise! Did not know about geography in Athens, did you?
I've done a lot of dumb driving on 10 and 316, so I can't even be mad at some of these players.
Yeah, who had?
Because it's a loop that you have to exit to continue on the loop, which look, I mean, I have a book right here. I'm an expert on the subject, Introduction to Tensor Analysis and the Calculus of Moving Surfaces. That
what a tech thing. Good Lord.
Nerd, come on.
Brings up a textbook when we're talking about sports.
Yeah, I came prepared. I was like, they're not going to ask me a math question, but I will be prepared.
Yeah.
No, we say it frequently on the show. We are not mathologists here. We're
big fats.
All right.
Alcoholists.
Fair.
I will say this, like, you do have a good math program at Georgia. Like, I will say that you have a decent physics program.
Man, I don't know. I passed 2 math classes at Georgia. I don't know about that.
Well, I mean, but you weren't a math major or anything. Like, I've done a lot.
He's a PE teacher. Don't let him talk to you about school.
Obviously, look, you dress for the job you want, right?
Yeah. Next.
Yeah.
All right. So the last thing we do with our guests is we do some game picks. We actually intentionally threw in some ACC games in here for you.
Oh, okay, cool. Yeah.
First one we're talking about, South Carolina at Clemson. Clemson 2.5-point favorite, over under 49.5. We're just asking for a straight up pick. Everything else is for context.
So this is an interesting game because this has playoff implications, which is probably the first time you could say that ever. In fact, I know it's the first time you could say that ever. Clemson being a 2.5-point favorite is interesting. Now, I will take an aside to say, don't bet. It's a rigged game. If you do end up winning, you will be barred from betting or limited to what you can bet. So I've run the math on this. South Carolina might be the most dangerous team in the country from the standpoint of South Carolina as a team you do not want to play if you're a good team.
We have said multiple times on this show throughout the year. We're so glad we don't have South Carolina on the schedule this year
or next year.
I mean, I know everyone has made fun of them for a while, and Shane Beamer does weird things like kick his dog and break his toe and stuff after losses.
He's the easiest coach in college football to make fun of.
Yeah. But I'd have to take South Carolina, and I don't bet it, but if I did, I'd take them on the money line. As far as the over-under, I'd probably take the over. I don't like taking overs, but I'd probably take it in this game.
And I think in this game, South Carolina and Clemson, with the rankings that just came out as we're recording this, they're both top 15 teams. So it's a big resume builder for both.
Yeah, could easily propel one of them into the playoff.
Next game, Texas at Texas A&M. Texas is a 6-point road favorite, over under 48.5.
Another game that this is going to determine who you play in the SEC title. But you probably would rather A&M win this, right? It's tough to beat the same team twice.
Big Aggies fans on Saturday.
Yeah.
They're coming off of an embarrassing loss to Auburn, and the one of the most morally reprehensible coaches in Hugh Freeze, the man that has hookers on speed dial, pretends to love Jesus, goes to Liberty, and then DMs a girl after she accuses him.
Jesus loved to be around hookers too, though.
Yeah.
Not for the same reason.
Yeah.
But look, it didn't mean anything for him beating A&M. Texas being a 6-point favorite in this game, I would take A&M in the 6 points. Mike Elko might be the second best defensive mind in the country, if not vying for Kirby's spot. I would take A&M 6 points and under 48.5.
All right.
Next one, we've hinted at it a couple times tonight. Miami going to the Carrier Dome, playing Syracuse. Miami 11-point favorite, over under 67.5.
Now, I have been to the fart box in Syracuse. My dumb ass got on a plane and went to Syracuse, which, if you didn't know, is one of the saddest cities in the country. Like, there's all these unfinished buildings, either because they ran out of money to finish building it, or half of it has just fallen down. It's going to be an interesting matchup. I haven't seen – now, Fran Brown has gotten mad. He begged Sports Center College Game Day. He begged College Game Day to come to Syracuse, even though you've got Texas at Texas A&M. They were never going to go to a loser city like Syracuse.
I honestly just thought he was going to be mad that they use salt on the roads, and why not sugar? That's stupid. We're trying to be sweet around here.
Yeah, why would you use sodium chloride? I mean, why sodium Na? I don't care about Latin. That's dumb.
Nah.
This is a game that if you have to bet, I would stay the hell away from. Syracuse, I mean, Cal McCord's leading the country in passing yards, I believe. It's either him or Cam Ward. In fact, whoever has more passing yards in this game is probably going to be the leader in passing yards in the country. Syracuse is kind of a schizophrenic team. They'll throw 3 pick sixes against Pitt, and then they'll go, outplay a good team. I would love it selfishly if Syracuse won this game, because it would knock Miami out of the ACC title.
Same.
And then I could hang my hat on, you've been in the conference for 20 years and have never won it. Georgia Tech's a better program than you. That's a fact.
Yes.
I don't know how to bet this. I mean, 67.5 points is a ton.
Yeah.
I would think if Syracuse wins it, it's probably over that, though, because they're in a shootout. You know what? Let me just do it. Give me Syracuse.
Yes.
Yeah, buddy. Let's go.
All right.
Go Honda McCord.
On McCord.
Last game, we got to pick it. Georgia Tech at Georgia. Georgia, somehow, some way, none of us agree with the spread, but it's 19.5 points. Over under 53.5.
This is another. Here's my thing. Never bet on a Georgia team. Any of them. Falcons,
I agree.
Georgia Tech, Georgia.
100%.
Georgia hadn't been great at covering spreads. I think you're well under 500 in covering spreads. This opened up at 20.5 and it's moved to 19.5. That tells you a lot of people took Georgia Tech and 20.5 points. Here's the thing we didn't talk about and why I would not take Georgia at 19.5. Georgia Tech defensively is playing as well as anyone in the country right now. Santucci schemed up some pretty good defenses. I don't think Georgia covers 19.5. Now, I did give a score prediction, and I think I gave it at like 28-23, which is probably closer than most people think it's going to be. I originally said 31-23, but that was last year's score. I didn't just want to copy last year's score. So, taking the homer blinders off, I do think Georgia wins this game just because of the talent differential. It's a home game. It's going to be loud. And Tech's had trouble communicating even at home. We've had to call timeouts because we can't get the right play in. So give me Georgia Tech every bit of the 19.5 points and 53.5. Give me under 53.5.
We appreciate you coming on. We like I said, man, we've tried to get somebody on to talk about Tech for years, and shout out to the Boundary Corner podcast from back in June. They said that you were awesome, and when it came time, reach out to you.
I appreciate it.
So, is there anything else you want to hit on or plug before we get out of here?
Well, you can find me on YouTube, Rec Talk. You can find me on Twitter at Rec_Talk because some like Asian person hacked my other Twitter. It's probably a fellow student.
No way.
Yeah, it's probably a fellow student of mine. Also, I'm just going to say this. I hear Georgia fans everywhere saying we wish this rivalry would be more competitive. It makes it more fun. I don't think that's the case, though, because that would mean Georgia Tech is winning this thing every other year. And
no,
I'm not
we just want three. We want 3 to 6 point wins. Right. Every 2 or 3 years.
You want Georgia Tech to come in top 10 and then you beat them by 17. I know that
exactly.
I know that's what you want, but I have to say, because I just watched Dog Nation melt down over the most mild things that Brent Key's ever told. And I even said they should change their sponsor from Kroger to Tampax. I get a comment from someone, some feminist or I don't know, saying that you need to watch out this is discriminatory and you're watching the wrong channel.
Yeah. I apologize on behalf of all of Georgia for that softness. Yeah.
Oh, I thought you were apologizing for the person that left that comment.
No, we apologize for them having access to the internet.
Yes. Yeah. Should not have been that soft.
Uncle Lou's even, and look, me and Uncle Lou are friends. He called me like after both the Florida and Florida State wins, and I think he hates them too. I think he calls them the Disney dogs.
We got some stuff to close up on here, but we appreciate you coming on, and just honestly be expecting the same message same time next year.
All right.
Yeah.
We appreciate it. All right, guys, as always, wait, never mind. We're doing a mega episode.
Let's go.
This is holiday week. I'm leaving town. Mike's not in town. Caleb's not going to be home on Thursday. So we're doing everything tonight. I know.
Bonus for the people.
If you have made it to this point in the episode, you saw that like 2-hour mark and you were like, oh shit, I don't know if I want to listen to this. I bet you're glad you did now because it's double.
Yep.
We're doubling.
This is all you're getting. This is the only preview you're getting.
Call this Oreo. This motherfucker's double stuff. We're doing it.
Just like yo mom. Okay.
Oh, whoa.
If you make it all the way to the end of the video, you get to see my feet. So let's go.
All right, guys.
Already off the
remind
rails.
me to cut the video off before Mike takes his shoes off.
Oh, they're already off, brother. They're ready to go.
Damn it, you are in Florida. You're not allowed to wear shoes in that state. All right, guys, we're going to go ahead and jump into it. South Carolina at Clemson. Clemson, 2.5-point favorite, over under 49.5. So at the beginning of the season, we all thought South Carolina would have a decent offense and mid-minus defense, right?
Yeah, fair.
We all thought Clemson would have a good defense and a mid-minus offense.
That's what the first game told us.
Yep, and boy, were we all wrong. South Carolina currently ranked 13th in total defense and 50th in total offense. Meanwhile, South Carolina 49th in total defense, 6th in total offense.
Clemson is that.
Yeah, the Clemson half dynasty, like we made it to the playoffs a bunch of times, they're dead. So I think the South Carolina front seven is going to feast in this game. Thanksgiving weekend is just fitting. Clemson is ranked 50th in sacks allowed, allowing 1.64 per game, while South Carolina is third in the country in both total sacks and sacks per game, with 39 and 3.55 respectively. Clemson, 70th in tackles for loss allowed with 5.45 per game, and 12th in getting tackles for loss, averaging 7.4 per game. Clemson is running the ball well, getting 195.3 yards per game. The issue with South Carolina is stopping the run at an insanely good rate, averaging 103.4 yards per game allowed. With how good South Carolina's defense is, I really just do not see a way that Clemson wins this game. I know it's at home. Honestly, I don't really care because the last time South Carolina beat Clemson, it was at home. With South Carolina honestly having a worse team. I know
that team beat Josh Heupel though.
They did.
If you ask a Tennessee fan, it's because Michigan and Connor Stallion sent South Carolina Tennessee signs.
Yeah. Well, maybe your defense shouldn't let them blow off all their fireworks before the end of the game. But
fair.
Man, legitimately, if y'all are relatively new listeners, we did an episode with Chris Phillips shortly after that game just to talk about the turnaround South Carolina had, beating number 5 Tennessee and number
8,
7
I think,
Clemson in back-to-back weeks.
Mm-hmm.
But I know/think Clemson has a chance to still play in the ACC championship game.
They do.
Great. I don't think it matters. I think Beamer gets another great win, and they have a legit chance for an at-large bid if chaos plays out this week. And we just saw the playoff poll, and South Carolina is just on the outside of it. Yeah,
they're 15, which only requires a couple of teams to lose, one of which they are playing against.
Yeah.
And they have a chance if they do beat Clemson and even do it convincingly. They have better wins than Tennessee has and Ole Miss has. I mean, besides the Georgia win for them. So, they legitimately have a good argument to get in the playoffs. So,
and there are 1, 2, 3, at least 3 teams in the top 12 that have a legitimate chance of losing this week.
Yep.
Yeah. And there's a couple of those teams that probably get out if they lose their conference championship.
Ohio State, looking at you.
I don't know about that.
Nope, they were not in that list of 3 that I just had. But if number 15 South Carolina beats number 12 Clemson, nobody in the country wants to play South Carolina. And no. I know Rec Talk said that earlier. I know we've said it for weeks, but I stand by that argument every day.
Yeah, South Carolina will get somebody if they make the playoff.
Mm-hmm.
I just hope it ain't Georgia.
As of right now, Georgia is slated to play Tennessee if everything remains the same, which it won't.
And Athens again. But Georgia's going to win the SEC and it won't matter. But
right, exactly. Yep.
Sticking to it. Yep. In theory, this South Carolina Clemson game should be a good-on-good matchup with everything that you talked about there. But I think we all know what happened last time Clemson's offense met a competent defense week 1. So I think South Carolina rolls in this game. We all know Shane Beamer does his best work against Clemson, and I think that happens again. We know this version of Dabo, the post 2018 version of Dabo. If he does make the playoffs, that's going to be despite himself. I don't, so I weird to say that Shane Beamer is coaching better than a 2-time national champion coach right now, but Shane Beamer's players are playing better than the players that play for a 2-time national champion coach. I won't get crazy here.
So, side story. Have I ever told on the podcast about where I watched that 2018 national championship game?
Mm-mm.
No, I don't think so.
So, 2018 title game was January of 2019. Fun fact, most of the Georgia National Guard that was deploying to Afghanistan that year had gotten off the plane in Afghanistan the day before, right? Still trying to figure out what the hell time was, flying half the world away. And because a bunch of boys from the South just showed up, the chow hall opened and made coffee at 2 a.m. when this game kicked off, when they were supposed to be closed. So we could all go in and drink coffee and watch Clemson just beat the absolute shit out of Alabama.
Let's go.
And it is one of the best memories I have from the military because half of everybody hated Alabama, was super excited. You had like high up officers high-fiving privates. And then the other half were Alabama fans that left at halftime. They left the chow hall. They said, I'll figure this shit out tomorrow when I get on the Wi-Fi.
That's dope.
That's a great day. That's great.
Mm-hmm. So I won't add too much to it because you guys kind of hit on most everything. But one anecdote that I have, my former boss, 10, 15, well, I guess like 12 years ago now, messaged him a couple hours ago, asked him how he felt going into this game because he's a huge Clemson fan. He lives in, I think, Spartanburg now. Asked him how he feels about it. Yeah. And he said that he actually feels really good going into it. Apparently, this is the most healthy they're going to be since like the first week of the season, which we saw how that went. But he feels confident, which I don't know. I mean, he has his orange glasses on. We'll see about that. But like y'all mentioned, and we talked about, as it happened, both teams are in the top 15 in the college football playoff, so it's a big resume builder. I think South Carolina wants it more. Shane wants it more. Give me the Cox. Pause.
No, we're not letting you pause. You said what you said.
No, I don't have socks on. Shit.
So we all think
no.
So we all think the Cox are rising to the occasion.
Wait, I have socks on. Caleb, do you have socks on?
I do have socks on.
Damn it, Mike, you're on your own.
Damn it.
All right, next game we're talking about a bunch of people that never wear socks. Texas at Texas A&M. You know what they say about Texas? Only steers and something else come from there. And
Cowboys, blood drive me nuts.
I don't see any horns on anybody in that stadium except Bevo, and he's a piece of shit. So
yeah,
big facts.
Texas 6-point favorite, over under 48.5. And as Georgia fans, if we're being totally and completely honest with ourselves, we're rooting hard for A&M here. One, for the comedy, playing A&M twice in the past 12 years that they've been in the SEC. Both times within the state of Georgia. Just absolutely hilarious. Everyone that has season tickets to College Station is going to be upset about that.
I still can't believe we played in Austin in an SEC game before we played in College Station.
Keep it going. I never played in College Station.
At this point, I really think Greg Sankey has to have it in the back of his mind when he approves these schedules.
Just make it a running joke.
Hey, people are talking about it. People are talking about the SEC in June. People are talking about football in June.
Oh, sorry. Toledo special teams is ass. I'm sorry.
No,
Action is living up to his name.
Inside the Park baseball, we're all watching this Toledo-Akron game.
Yeah.
As is the rest of the nation.
Yeah.
Most important game of the week, some say.
Yeah.
But the second reason that we're all rooting for Texas A&M here, because they're just a much more beatable team than Texas is. And I know Georgia beat Texas earlier in the year, if you want to look me in the eyes and keep a straight face and say that that was not the best defensive performance that Georgia's had this season,
Looking at you, Dalen.
correct, then I will allow you to convince yourself that Texas is a more beatable team than Texas A&M.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
But that's a lie. So we say all of that to say Texas is a better team, 18th in total offense, 15th in scoring offense, 17th in passing offense, but they have dropped to 58th in rushing offense. All those numbers have dropped since that Georgia game significantly, and it seems that Georgia has given teams the script to beat Texas. But it appears that a lot of SEC coaches just can't read all of that well.
It plays, yeah.
Yeah, X's and O's, the other letters, real confused. The issue with this game is that we have no idea which Texas A&M team we're going to get this week. Against some teams, cough, cough, LSU, they were absolutely elite. Against other teams,
Cough, cough, Auburn.
Yeah, they're just trash. Drinking barrel-proof whiskey with a menthol cough drop in your mouth equals throat on fire.
Yeah, let's go, man. We're going into break week, right?
There we go.
Yeah, like tomorrow's my last day at work this week. I'm here for whatever, dude. But also in the Texas A&M sucking department, we're looking at that performance in Willie B.
Yeah.
Just who among us would be confident playing in Willie B this year? Not very many.
No.
But that statement still stands. A&M is also playing an entirely different offense over the last month or so with Marcel Reed at quarterback. But in games with Reed at quarterback and playing against teams with top 25 defenses, they've lost by a combined 26 points in 2 games.
Oof.
That's only 2 games, South Carolina and Auburn, but it makes the point.
Yeah.
For the Texas side of this game, Texas has beaten everybody but Georgia. They've also played only one team that has been ranked at the time of the game, Georgia. They've only played one team that is currently ranked, Georgia. They lost to Georgia.
Yeah.
By 2 possessions.
I was going to say pretty convincingly.
Texas opponents have a combined record of 57 and 53. And if you take Georgia out of that equation, teams they've beaten this year, the combined record is 48 and 51. One of the easiest schedules in college football by far. I really think it is Indiana, Texas, and then a fight for third place.
That's fair.
With all of that being said, I still think that Texas wins this game and gets that rematch in Atlanta against Georgia. But this is one of multiple picks that I'm making tonight where I would be ecstatic if I am wrong.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't think it takes a genius to understand that Texas has a better team than Texas A&M. Their quarterback's better than Marcel Reed. They have a better defense than the one that just let Peyton Thorne hang 40 on them. They're just better. But getting back to sort of a theme that we've talked about a lot this season, you talk about how Texas hasn't played the best SEC competition. Both teams kind of lucked out with their SEC slates, though.
Especially A&M, good Lord.
Yeah, in Texas's case, that was completely intentional.
Yes.
To A&M's credit, they've beaten teams who looked like they were at least supposed to be pretty good at the time, and it just turned out not to be the case.
I should have said this earlier. Caveat with Texas's schedule. Before last weekend, they had played of Core 4 competition. Before last weekend, they had played 2 teams with a winning record. Georgia and Vanderbilt.
Mm-hmm.
Everybody else that they have with a winning record this season won last weekend to go 6-5.
Yeah.
Like that. Just to be clear about how bad their level of competition is.
Right. And also to A&M's credit too, in the non-conference slate, their win I said their win over Notre Dame. Their loss to Notre Dame. I guess I was drunk when I wrote these notes earlier. But
Oh,
even
yeah.
their loss to Notre Dame right now looks a lot better than Texas's win over Michigan.
Sorry,
Oh, yeah, absolutely. No, I turned that game off after the first quarter. I wouldn't worry about it.
Yeah. And so, yeah, A&M has certainly played a tougher schedule than Texas has, even with it being one of the weaker ones in the SEC. And unlike Texas, they have won a lot of the tougher games on their schedule. They've just lost games that they probably shouldn't have on top of that.
Yep.
Now, if I was looking at like consistency and statistics and consistency and team talent, Texas would be a pretty easy choice to win this game.
Mm-hmm.
But as you guys know, I've been following my gut these last few weeks with my predictions, and my gut is not physically allowing me to pick Texas to win this game. Every time I go to type in, I think Texas is going to win, my body just stops itself. It's like, don't do it. You know you want to pick Mike Elko. Come on. They've been looking ahead to this one, as Mike Elko basically admitted. Aggie fans have wanted this one all season. This is the Super Bowl to them. They've been tested a little bit more. They've had to overcome a little bit more. So, yeah, screw it. Give me the Aggies. And as wrong as it feels that they're going to be in the SEC championship, it would feel even more wrong if Texas was going to be in that game. So, I'll take it.
All right, Caleb, you're the tiebreaker guy.
I am, yes.
Should, just hypothetically here, a meteor hit Kyle Field on Saturday night?
God willing.
Who would Georgia play in the SEC title game with both Bama and Ole Miss losing last week?
Would it be Tennessee?
So a media hits Kyle Field. Is that like the game is canceled, or somehow both teams lose?
Both teams no longer exist.
Yeah.
Hypothetically.
I think it's Tennessee.
Or
Because
is it South Carolina?
No, because Tennessee only has 2 conference losses. South Carolina's got 3.
Well, and like Tennessee has the tiebreaker over Bama head to head.
Yeah. Now, if Vandy were to beat Tennessee next week and add to that would make things very interesting.
Okay.
All
Let's
right, we're
add
hoping
that
for
into
the
the
result.
equation.
Let's
Does
go.
Georgia play South Carolina in Atlanta?
Oh, God.
I think it's possible because you've got a kind of a 3-way canceling out tie. Vandy beat Alabama. Alabama beat Carolina. Did Carolina play Vandy, actually? I don't even remember.
I don't think
They
so.
did.
no.
They beat Vandy.
Oh, did they? Oh,
Did they?
shit.
Oh, okay. All right. So, yeah, I guess we'd have to look at record against common opponents in that case, which South Carolina, I think, would have over Alabama because of the Vandy game.
Ooh.
There it is.
I don't like it.
There's the
I don't
path.
like it.
Meteor hits Kyle Field.
Meteor hits Kyle Field. South Carolina somehow makes the conference title game after Vandy beats Tennessee. And Georgia plays South Carolina, and we're all pissed off.
Yeah, let's not do that.
Absolutely, I agree.
Whoever is out there controlling
We
the
need-
meteors and the
We
government
need
weather
Bruce Willis to go up
institutes.
there. We need Bruce Willis to go up there and blow up that meteor right away, or asteroid, or whatever the fuck it is. Again, not a science guy.
There's plenty of oil field guys that can do that, but
Yeah,
At A&M.
But just get the same weather machine that gave us Helene.
for whoever is running the simulation, hopefully you got your headphones in on me right now. Please no meteor, but please A&M win. Is that what we're doing?
Think you can make that happen as long as Texas doesn't throw too much trash on the field.
I don't know about that. We'll see.
100 and something thousand seats. I'm sure there's going to be plenty of Texas fans there trying to throw their trash on the field, and somehow it won't be their spray tans.
So probably not a good look that we're all in the same boat here, but I'm gonna go with A&M as well. Just a fun fact.
We're not. John picked Texas.
No,
You're good.
did he?
I
Oh,
said
shit.
I want to be wrong, but I think Texas wins.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. So I feel way better about this now. All right, I'm going with A&M here, Giggle. Just a fun fact, because you guys talked about a lot of this already, but UMass has played more SEC teams with a winning record this year than Texas has up to this point. Then now it's going to be tied after this game, but that's wild. But and A&M's been waiting for over a decade to play Texas again, because it's a little brother syndrome with A&M playing Texas. Although both hate each other, this is A&M's biggest game by far. They haven't really had a true rival since they've been in the SEC. I mean, they had their moments against LSU and Alabama and all that, but Texas is their game, right? This is what they've been planning for since that the media days, 3 years ago when they announced that Oklahoma and Texas were going to be in the SEC at some point. So I mean, I'm going A&M here, and we can worry about A&M next week for Georgia, but
Yeah.
for at least a little while, gig 'em and all that stupid shit that the male cheerleaders do.
Wait, guys, on Friday night, are we all going to stand outside and yell at midnight? Just
No.
yell at the sky at midnight. I will commit to do it if you guys commit to do it.
Oh yeah, no, we
Yeah.
we should IG live that shit. Just,
Personally, I am straight. So I'm just kidding. Yeah, I'll do it. Why not?
We will go on Instagram Live and yell at the sky at midnight in support of Texas A&M.
Yeah, if they.
There
Hey,
we go.
All right. Speaking of a lot of people that just do a lot of yelling for no reason, when we're talking about both teams here, because we're talking about Miami at Syracuse. Miami because they're doing cocaine and they're up at midnight. Syracuse because they live
yeah.
in New York, and they just yell all the time because they're angry it's cold. We do have Miami as 11-point favorites. Over under 67.5. And this is an interesting matchup. It is in the Carrier Dome in Syracuse. And I know this game is in a dome, but the weather between Thursday and Sunday in Syracuse is a high of 39 and a low of 25, with it supposed to be snowing on Thursday.
ooh.
Ew.
And I say that, I agree, Mike, because even with the game in a dome, it's going to be 80 this week in Miami before those boys fly up to Syracuse.
Ooh.
And even if it's in a dome and you're in a hotel, walking around town when it's snowing and it was 80 degrees back home will have an effect on your body.
Well, apparently there's nothing in Syracuse to walk around to go see, so maybe that's to Miami's advantage too.
But they're
Going
close
back to
enough
our
to
interview.
Buffalo. I'm sure they have some good wing spots.
There we go.
Get the tables.
It's also possible because it is close to Fort Drum in New York that they just have some bars where people get belligerently drunk and try to drive, just like Miami.
Damn,
Except
tangent
it'll
though.
be like 98 Civics instead of Lamborghinis that they're driving.
Is that where Wes was at?
It is.
Yeah,
okay.
When the snow was taller than him, that he was at Fort Drum.
Wow.
Love you, Wes.
Unbelievable.
Glad you're back in the South and the snow's not taller than you anymore. But Syracuse does have the number 2 passing offense in the country, and Miami allowed 342 passing yards to Louisville, who is 13th in the country in passing offense, 297 passing yards to Cal, who is 21st in the country in passing offense, 325 yards to Duke, who is 45th in passing offense. Saying that to say Miami is giving up a ton of passing yards to teams that can actually pass the ball.
Yeah.
I really don't know who to pick in this game because I trust Miami and Syracuse for that matter. Like I trust a politician who says they have my best interest at heart.
Fair.
So
I will
not.
say,
Yeah.
0%. Actually, -%. But I will say I trust the ACC to continue to prop Miami up instead of allowing them to lose because they're not good. So with that, I take Miami in an extremely close game and hope I'm wrong for the second time tonight.
Well, I know who I'm picking, and it's Syracuse. I'm just not gonna bury the lead. I'm doing this again, just going with my heart, going with my gut. I do not trust Mario Cristobal to be able to get the win he needs to make the ACC championship game. They lose this game, Clemson takes their spot, and they're likely out of the playoff. Combine that with the fact that this game is in the dome, really solid passing attack from Kyle McCord. Really looks like a perfect storm for the Hurricanes.
All right, so not going to talk about it too much, but Fran, as we talked about in the interview, Fran has the Orange Boys feeling disrespected, and they're probably a better team than Tech, which, of course, they beat Miami a couple weeks ago. So give me Syracuse here. But one thing, if Miami and Clemson both lose, who's playing SMU in the ACC championship?
If
Looking at
Miami
you,
and
Caleb.
Clemson both lose, it doesn't matter because it's a non-conference game for Clemson this weekend, so it'll be Clemson.
That makes sense. Okay.
So
Great point. Yeah.
SMU still gets the number 4
Yeah.
seed.
Yeah.
Well,
Possibly. Is Clemson ahead of Boise? Yeah,
no,
I think so.
Clemson is not ahead of Boise.
No, they're
I
not.
mean SMU. I'm sorry.
They're ranked 9 right now. I don't remember where Boise was ranked.
Oh,
Boise, I think, is 11.
Boise is 11, so
Oh
SMU
yeah,
would
SMU
get
is
the 4
ahead of
seed.
Boise. Mm.
Yeah.
Well, they might get the 3 seed because the Big 12 is still, I think, behind them.
Big 12 still might miss out on this whole thing because Arizona
Yeah.
State's the 12 seed right now because they're the 5th highest conference champion.
All right, Wildcats, get your head in the game.
They're the Sun
and
Devils.
let's have Tulane do this shit.
Yeah, chaos everywhere, please.
Let's get Tulane and Boise in the 12-team playoff.
Let's do it.
We got the Green Wave and the Blue Broncos. Let's roll.
That's it.
Dude, Akron's about to score.
Come on now, Akron.
One. Sorry.
We're talking about chaos as Akron, who's won 3 games this season, is about to beat the same Toledo team who beat Mississippi State at home.
Our podcast father, Connor, his boy, Joe Moorhead, head coach at Akron. Jomo.
I'm a Jomo sapien. Or a Jomo sapien.
Jomosexual, yeah.
That Connor is a Jomosexual. We are Jomo sapiens.
Fair.
But I would say Connor's more of an uncle than a father, you know?
Again, the family tree stuff just confuses me. I don't know.
Somewhere Connor's crying in his house because he heard you say that.
But he's the uncle that's like, hey man, my company's hiring, give me a job. Connor hasn't got me a job at SDS, but he makes a lot of the connections, helps us make a lot of the connections for the interviews. So
he's not the cool uncle that gives us like alcohol at the cookout.
Exactly. There we go.
No, and I say that because when we were in Orlando, I had lunch with Connor one day, and I was drinking a beer while he was drinking coffee at like 2 p.m, and I was sad.
You know what? That plays. Okay.
But Mike, you should try to have lunch with him and get him to drink a beer.
Dude, I'm so good at peer pressure being around middle school kids all day. Like I can get him to do it. I can get him to say like a slur too, probably.
Look, if you don't have his number, I'll send it to you. We'll get this going.
I don't know. Do you? So big tangent. Like, do you think my kids would like poison his daughter's mind if we did a whole family get together?
I don't know because his daughter is still very young, so I don't know if it'd be like a permanent poisoning or like a temporary one.
Food poisoning.
But I don't know. Great question.
Daughter just dropping F-bombs out of nowhere.
I mean, your kids tried to poison my dog, so they very toxic.
Wait a minute. Wait, did you try to give dogs chocolate or something?
No, but the dogs did act much more wild after you left.
Dogs act touched by baptism.
Hey, Champ, the dog I got off the side of the road, I've always said he got the dogtism, but it may have gotten a little strengthened.
Okay. Where the hell are we at?
We're about to go into Georgia and Georgia Tech.
Yep. Speaking of autism, Georgia Tech is coming to Sanford Stadium on Black Friday. Inside the Park baseball, I have notifications set up for anytime UGA football equipment makes a post on Instagram, and they have not done so since they said Black Friday eyeballs
with the black
posted what
clothing
the coaches are wearing. Just saying.
Always the teases. Always.
It seems like the players are not into it either. Like they know they're just yanking their chain.
Or do the players know and they were told, Big Dog, that NIL is gone if you leak this shit.
Right.
But Georgia, 19.5-point favorites, over under 53.5. I'm about to go into a deep dive on why Georgia Tech should not be slept on. A lot of this is involved with Haynes King, but it is still the impact of their offense with a competent quarterback, which Zach Pyron is not. Just being honest, right? Georgia Tech, 46th in total offense, 414.7 yards per game. In games where Haynes King is a quarterback, that goes up to 431.4, good for 33rd. Georgia, with Carson Beck playing every game, is 34th. In games that Haynes King has played against teams with top 20 total defenses, Georgia is 15th. That's kind of why I went with that number. That drops down to 370 yards per game, good for 85th. And that's because the only team they've played with the top 20 defense is Miami, and they're 14th. Notre Dame is 4th, but that is a game that Zach Pyron played for the entirety of the game. In passing offense, Georgia Tech is 56th with 234.6 yards per game. In games that Haynes King has played, that drops slightly to 228, dropping them to 66th. But with what you guys just heard in our interview with Rec Talk, it went up because of the quarterback that is probably playing this weekend, Philo. Don't remember his first name. Sorry, dude.
Aaron sounds right, but I don't know.
I also thought Aaron, but I'm not sure.
It is Aaron because it's eerily similar to like an NBA player like Aaron Aflalo, but it's not quite that, but close to it.
Honestly, as someone that cooks and enjoys cooking, every time I hear Philo, I think of phyllo dough, which is like a pastry dough, but that's
wow.
The point. But with him, the passing yards per game does go up quite a bit. And the point of that is just to say that this Georgia Tech team isn't good with only one quarterback. And that is Zach Pyron.
Mm-hmm.
He's the only person that can come in and take snaps where you can sleep on this team. With Haynes King, with Aaron Philo, they are a great offense. And I want to emphasize that to all the Georgia fans listening to this. Georgia Tech has become a team that you cannot sleep on. Ask Miami. Ask North Carolina. Ask Florida State. And we know where Florida State is now.
Yep.
98% of the United States was still high on Florida State going into that game in Ireland. Right?
Not us.
Not us. We knew.
We were sober on Florida State. Everybody else was still high.
Can't relate.
But, you know, there are multiple things that concern me about this Georgia Tech team. They have protected quarterback extremely well. Georgia, while in big games, has gotten after the quarterback. In a lot of games, they have struggled to get after the quarterback. It's one of those things they almost have to put an emphasis on, but when they do that, they leave the secondary relatively exposed.
Mm-hmm.
Do I trust guys like Dalen Everett, Julian Humphrey, Daniel Harris to cover the guys that Rec Talk just told us about that are running 10-240s? No, I do not.
Wait a second. 10-240s. That's me.
No, whoa. 10-200s.
Okay.
I've had 4 glasses of whiskey because we've been at this shit for like 2 fucking hours.
I'm like a handle, not a handle, but like a fifth down of like cognac. So yeah, same. If you couldn't tell.
I brought out the bottle I took to Friendsgiving last night. That is 58% alcohol.
Damn.
So I'm solid, man. I'm feeling good. I don't need cough drops anymore. My throat don't hurt. But no, I really do think this Georgia Tech team cannot be slept on. I do not like that 19.5-point spread. If I'm being honest, I do like the over 53.5 just because I think Georgia's going to have to pass to win this game. They have a phenomenal defense against the run. And, you know, at this point, Georgia's down 3 of their top 4 running backs.
Mm-hmm.
You have 3 freshmen in Cash Jones. I don't necessarily think that's negative things. Cash Jones. I don't necessarily think that's a negative thing with the way that Georgia recruits the running back position, but it is possible that Georgia gets Freight Train and Battering Ram back this week. If you're new to the show, that is Rogers Robinson, RR, Freight Train. Hopefully you understand that. Battering Ram is Branson Robinson. Hopefully you understand that as well. If you're new, I'm not a nice person. But it's possible Georgia gets both those guys back this week. And if we see either of those guys at a relatively healthy level in this game on Friday, I like Georgia by 2 scores. Potentially 3, but I think it's 17 versus 21. But regardless of that, I think this Georgia team comes in focused. These boys, by the skin of their teeth, snuck into the SEC championship game, and I don't think they're taking that for granted, right? They're going to be ready for this game, and I guarantee after that tackling performance we saw against UMass, they've had a very difficult week of practice.
Oh, yeah.
I think they're ready for this week. I know that Kirby, having played against Brent Key, having coached with Buster Faulkner, knows that Georgia Tech is coming in this game ready. The kitchen sink is getting thrown out.
Yep.
Georgia Tech is doing everything they can to win this game. And Georgia has to beat them. Georgia Tech will not beat themselves this week. But this Georgia Tech secondary has struggled this year. They've given up 381 passing yards to Syracuse, 269 to Louisville, and 348 to Miami. They have not gotten to the quarterback well this season. I think Carson is going to be able to pass the ball with relative ease as long as guys are able to catch it. And I think that with the potential of either Freight Train or Battering Ram being back, that this game is at least a 14-point game. And the Dogs turn the joke by Coke into the past tense and make them the Rambling Wrecked.
Let's go.
They're still going to be 7-5 and make a good bowl game. Still getting wrecked by the Dogs.
Yeah, but North Avenue Trade School does have a solid team this year, and anyone who is listening and hearing us get high on them and think that this isn't a losable game, you're kidding yourself.
Right.
They've got everything they need on offense to win the game. They've got a mobile quarterback and a quarterback that can throw, albeit it's not the same guy, but they have both of those things right now. We can't sleep on Philo. You never know when a guy's playing against the secondary, and he did okay last week against, again, NC State, but still. According to Brent Key, they've spent the last 365 days prepping for this game in particular.
Not wise, yeah.
Yeah. John, you brought it up. Had the UMass game gone a little differently, I would say there was a chance that Tech runs all over us.
Yeah.
But this front seven got embarrassed last week by UMass's running attack. And with most teams, that would be a cause for concern going into a game like this. But when a Georgia player gets embarrassed, what does that player always do the next game, unless it's Carson Beck and then it takes a few weeks?
Just obliterate the other team.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. They get out there, they dominate, and there's no look ahead from Kirby here. A, because we don't know what we're looking ahead to, even by then. But B, he wants to beat Tech. He wants to beat Tech as much as anybody else on that field is going to want to beat Tech.
Probably more.
Yeah. So as long as he's 100% focused on wrecking Tech and the Georgia players are 100% focused on wrecking Tech, I think we win this game. I don't know about cover, but I think we win this game.
I mean, I do think we win this game as well, but I do think Tech covers. 19.5 is a lot.
Yeah.
But just, going back an hour and a half at this point, Rec Talk convinced me that Brent Key and Buster Faulkner are freaking dogs, right?
Yeah.
Buster Faulkner can confirm he was the Stetson Bennett Wrangler.
Yeah.
And Stetson Bennett in Athens was a wild man. That
shouldn't. How did that even happen? Stetson Bennett being able to be allowed to be in Athens.
Honestly, I don't know, but I'm eternally grateful for it.
Yeah. Somebody saw something.
Sorry. Toledo scored.
Dang it.
14-7, but again, I do think Tech covers. And don't have any stats or anything to back that up. This game, I mean, going back to last year with arguably a better team, Tech kept it closer. So I do think that Tech will cover, but I do think Georgia wins by 15, let's say, and good enough to feel good, I guess. I don't know, but
Yeah.
it's all, as long as we win, that's all that matters. We go on to the SEC championship and we prepare for A&M hopefully, or Texas. You know what? Honestly, either one,
I'm good
don't
with
give
it.
a shit. It doesn't matter. Georgia's winning anyway.
So I agree with that. I do think that not winning by 2 possessions really hurts Georgia in the conversation nationally. And I say that because I don't think the national media respects Georgia Tech, even though they're the only team this season to beat Miami, even though that should have been 3 teams. This Georgia Tech team is a good team.
Yeah.
I've been saying it as many times as I've had the opportunity to all season. Kyle Efford, between the neck pad, the persona, the eye black, just the name sounding like F word. One of my favorite players in college football. But he's also a hell of a linebacker. And the last 4 weeks, he's been playing at way less than 100%, probably closer to 50, and still making a significant impact on games. Brent Key has turned this Georgia Tech team into a team that I really think will probably compete for the ACC title game in the next 3 years. They're not getting the national recognition they should. So if Georgia wins this game by 1 possession, I think it hurts Georgia.
But at the same time, like I've been saying this to people all week, just win the games and it doesn't matter. Win the SEC championship, it doesn't matter.
And you know what? Haynes King probably has 1 more year at Tech, so 1 more year to worry about him.
Yeah.
Hopefully he gets healthy.
Don't tell me that.
Just for his sake.
Yeah.
And Haynes King is one of those guys that in games he should win. He's probably not going to do great. When you're like, you have no chance, he's drinking some of Michael's secret stuff, talking about Space Jam, not you, Mike.
Well, the same. Like I'm the same way as him. It's like my son.
Yeah.
Young enough to be.
But yeah, no, I mean, I think Haynes King is a good quarterback, at least in college. I am not confident that Georgia owns this game. I hope they do.
Be nice.
Because honestly, I'm really tired of being pissed off when I leave home games this year. Like I want to leave Sanford Stadium on Friday night feeling phenomenally, just like I did after that Tennessee game. We're not talking about the next morning.
Yeah.
All right, best bets. Mike, you have yours written down in the doc, so go ahead.
All right, so I don't think any of y'all are going to take any of this stuff, so I don't feel bad going first. But I'll leave that first one for last. All right, so Notre Dame, they're 7.5 point favorites over USC. I'm taking Notre Dame there. I mean, they don't have a choice. USC is not good. They blew a game against Penn State at home earlier this year, which, as we all talked about on this show, Penn State's not really that good. The 4th ranking they have is fraudulent or whatever they are right now. But I do think Notre Dame covers at 7.5, and they get that 5th seed in the college football playoff. Second, I do have Oregon State plus 20 because it's a lot of points against Boise State. And really, it comes down to looking at, like, I had the CW game in like my multi-view on YouTube TV, and it was super close with Oregon State and Washington State the other day. And Oregon State, I think, ended up winning that game, storming the field and all that. So that still kind of goes through my mind that they are not as bad as we'd like to think they are. But I do think Oregon State can keep it relatively close and cover that 20 points against Boise. And then last, I do think Michigan covers that 21 point.
Okay, covers. Okay,
they're not going to win. I'm not saying they're going to win. I mean, they could.
We all want them to win.
Yes.
We just don't believe they will.
Yeah.
Like, this is probably the only game of the year, every year really, that Michigan is America's team. I mean, that's fair to say, right?
Yeah, I would agree with that.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, as bad as Michigan fans are, which, hand up, can be. I hope I'm not, but it can be. I do think Michigan covers at 21 points against Ohio State because, fuck Ryan Day. This is going to be his last game in the series.
Yeah.
If they lose this game, he's done. There's no way he's coming back. And I'm not that I'm worried. I would love Ryan Day to come back to Ohio State and stay there, but I don't think he wants to. I don't think Ohio wants him to come back. I think Michigan covers this game, and hopefully they win. But just officially, I'm going Michigan covers at 21 points in the horseshoe.
All right, Caleb. Do you want to give us your best question marks? Because after last week, we don't know if they're fades or bets.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm feeling chaotic again. Well, not really with the bets, just with the picks.
Just don't
so we'll see.
Don't say anything about Akron right now because we're up 14-7 right now.
Yeah, I'm not going to touch Akron. I joked about it earlier. I'm not going to do it. So I've got 3 that I'm looking at right here in a row. Arkansas, Missouri. The total they've got on that game is 54.5. I like the under in that game, 54.5. Just seems like a lot. Arkansas has the more competent offense, rather, in my opinion, and it's at Missouri, so I don't know if that's going to carry over. And then I mentioned earlier I like Syracuse to beat Miami, and I'm putting my money where my mouth is. Syracuse plus 10.5 seems like it's a pretty good one. And then Auburn at Alabama. I understand this sitting a Nick Saban team, but I still think they're going to come out pissed off after what happened against Oklahoma last week. The spread's only 11.5. I like Alabama minus 11.5.
Where's the game at? Is it in Tuscaloosa?
It's in Tuscaloosa, yeah.
Okay.
Otherwise, I would give you a very different bet right now.
Yeah.
All right, guys. I got quite a few, probably too many. First one I have, Egg Bowl over 61.5. And I think that's because of one of two things. I think Mississippi State does what they did to Georgia and scores 21 to 28 points. Or Ole Miss is pissed off and wins this game 63-0.
Yeah. Either of those is very possible.
Yeah. Next one, I have Duke money line. Duke is playing Wake Forest. It's a very small spread. Money line is minus 183. I like that because Wake Forest is not a good team.
Minus 183. That's an actual number.
No. The money line.
Yeah.
But still, that's an actual number. That's wild.
Yeah. Duke money line minus 183. I'm taking that. Next one, South Carolina money line plus 111. I don't care if they win by 1 or 10. With the money line at plus 111, that means Vegas thinks it's a 50-50 game.
Mm-hmm.
I'm taking South Carolina to win outright. I think their front seven is just too good for Clemson. Next one, Army minus 7 points. If you can get less than minus 7 points, even if it is minus 6.5, take that. The money line's not worth it. You gotta bet like $2 to get $1 or $200 to get $100. I don't think it's worth it. But I think Army comes out pissed off, scores a bunch of points in this game. I think they win. And then the last one, just being 100% honest, it is a heart pick. I got Kennesaw State plus 12. I do not care who they're playing. Guy I knew in high school is their current head coach after they fired their head coach for the last decade. And last week he doubled their their FBS win total for the entire history of the football program, with getting their second FBS win ever. I think they covered plus 12. I got a lot of faith in my guy Chandler Burks. I want him to get that full-time job.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm taking Kennesaw State plus 12 and hope I do not regret it.
Hootie frickin' who.
Hootie. Oh,
Indeed.
Also, This is their hand sign.
Oh, okay. Not a bird.
Yeah.
Okay. So
Yeah.
that makes sense.
Yeah.
Okay.
Hootie hoo. Fuck whoever Kennesaw State's playing. That's a guy that I had like every class with senior year that is currently their head coach. I am all in
Let's
on
go.
on Chandler Burks over at Kennesaw State. For real this time, that's going to do it for this episode of the Nothing Finer podcast. As always, follow us on social media at nothing.finer.pod on Instagram, at finerpod on Twitter, Facebook, YouTube, TikTok. Just look us up. You will find us there. Rate and review the show 5 stars, please. Thank you. Share it with anyone who will listen to you talk, because we would appreciate it. Do you guys have anything else to say before we get out of here?
Just beat the nerds. He
Yeah.
says as a guy who played Yu-Gi-Oh! And Magic the Gathering well into his 20s. Beat the nerds.
Beat the nerds. Also, with this being the Thanksgiving episode, we're thankful for you guys for helping us keep the lights on at we'll just call it the Bender Bar over here.
There we
being
go.
Drunk, obnoxious Georgia fans. But as always, remember there is nothing finer in the land
than a drunk, obnoxious Georgia fan.